Hello everybody, let's start this new series about developing an enjoyable Node and Express Restful API server. I've already done a lot of work creating an entire framework with a lot of classes and objects and functionalities and tools that allows you to create very easily a very powerful REST API or a complete web server. You can't do this without any template system based upon Express. So we don't use Pug or handlebars or mustache or something similar. We already have a different system that is called the HTML system, the HTML engine. It's very simple system that uses static functions and is based upon the concept of portions instead of components like in other frameworks. We build the pages using portion of the pages. Very simple. We can create classes that are portion builders that can create a portion of a web page. All this allows us to create very easily HTML pages very fast, and very conveniently we can reuse all the code we can reuse. We can do object-oriented development using TypeScript, so we can derive the classes and get specialized versions of more general object portion builders. I've chosen to use this approach instead of the decorators pattern that is possible to use in TypeScript, because I feel much more comfortable right now since I'm still learning TypeScript, and I feel comfortable about object-oriented design instead of functional composition and behavior composition. So I can run my server. I run the gulp toolchain that allows me to transpile continuously the code when I save and create the JavaScript files. This is my toolchain that runs gulp. It has several tasks that runs in parallel. I add another terminal. It's a bit slow, but it works. My laptop is not very powerful, but it has an i7 processor. It has enough RAM, but it's not very fast. You can see here that in order to compile everything, to transpile everything, it requires about 18 seconds. It's a bit long. And I can run my server, my development server. It runs nodemon and refreshes and watches for the sources every 5 seconds. So when the scripts are finished to be transpiled, after about 5 seconds, the server is restarted. This line tells me that the server is listening, so I can use my I can use a browser to see that everything is working. Now the main menu of the web interface to the REST server is composed about two main menus. Era is the name of the project. Enjoyable Restful API. Era has these main sections. So I can have an API reference where I can see all the details about all the routes that I have managed here in the system at the moment. I have a reference about all the objects, so the interfaces, the TypeScript interfaces that I'm using in the API, and all the enumerations. All of this stuff is created from JSON schemas. So the system analyzes all the JSON schemas that are present in the data structures. So I can see here that in the data path, you can see here in Era, this is the collection of all the JSON schemas. And so in the Era, I have the interfaces. These are the interfaces of the JSON schemas. And I have the enumerations. The enumerations schemas are created automatically starting from the TypeScript files using a job, a task that is a tool that I've created here, build enum schemas. This task checks and looks for all the schemas and then creates the JSON schema starting from the TS file. Not very difficult, very easy to do. This framework is heavily based upon JSON schemas. It's very convenient to do this. So I can have all the documentation that I want. So I want to see what is a multi-lang message. The multi-lang message has these fields. The interface. I have a naming convention. Here you can see that here is missing the underscore, because I can see the interfaces by name or by family. If I see this by family, I can see that here there is an underscore like Lodash. This is a section of a family of interfaces that are general purpose, so are the core. So these are the basic, very basic interface JSON schemas that are required to make the whole thing to work. So a validator in another JSON schema validator. AJV is a library. The JSON schema itself, multi-language message, Apg result. This is very, very basic object that allows to manage results and errors, internal errors, and managed languages. The errors reference is still work in progress, so there's nothing yet inside this, but I will work soon on this, because it takes the data, it will take the data from this section of let's see, like let me see something that has data inside. So the API management itself can generate some errors, and these are all the errors. So if I want to create a new family, I want to delete a new family, and I'm trying to call the route with the wrong family name, it will return an error. And this is the error. I have a multi-language error here, and these are the languages. So now I can manage the error message in two languages. This message requires one parameter. And these are all the defined errors for the API family. The authorization has its own errors, so JSON Web Token is missing, is embodied, is expired, and so on. I've tried to log in without the password is invalid, and so on. And the password is expired, the login email, all the authorization errors, and so on. In the CMS, there are no error messages already defined. In the DXF, the same. In the DXF family, I have those defined routes, so I can go here and I can browse the DXF family. These are those routes are defined here. Now there are errors because those routes are not effective, not actual. I can browse here, but they do not fit with the real API, because the real API now is changed and the DXF family has its own router, and the router now manages these two routes. So an empty route that refers to the DXF route and DXF test file ID. So I should change the route's definition, and I will change, no, this is good, I will change this one, no, maybe I don't know, I don't need to do this, and so this is the index of SSR tests, and this is not the XF, but I have to go to the router. So the router manages test file ID. I go here and I can change here. So this route will require a parameter in the route description. Get the DXF file obtained by the test. So this particular route will require a file name here. This is wrong. File name or test name. File name. File name. Get the text file. Okay. Raw request. The format is not HTML, but is a file. DXF is the data type. At the moment, no error is registered, but here I will see no error if there is no error, but if there's some error, maybe there will be something like this, DXF, file not found, something like this. If I will require a non-existing file, it will return this DXF file not found. Okay, you can see nothing happens. Now it's broken. It's not really broken, but I can do this for being coherent. So file name, see, yes. Let's see, test, dxf test, I have to read a parameter, test page, get test page, get test file, dxf test. Hmm. Hmm. Path normalize. Output folder. Ah, yes, this is correct. It's the output folder. Now I need to read this. That is so params file name is translated here into this constant. Here I need to do the check. If something goes wrong, I have to see somewhere if first of all this is present, if it is missing, if it is not in the correct format, because here we expect to have something like file.dxf. Now here there isn't a controller, but usually the router manages the route, and inside the router manager, that is this function, there is an object that is called controller. Here the controller is not yet implemented. The controller has the role, its purpose is to perform all of these checks and verify if everything is going well, or to return the error. Now here it is returning only a file. There's a method that is defined in this object, that is a general HTML router that can return HTML files or HTML, not files, or files. So here now all the testing is not yet implemented over the route. When the testing are implemented, what will happen? That here when I will enter now, if I wait that everything is recompiled, so watcher scripts, here there is already an error, so the scripts. Now Node is restarting. Yeah, we have an error. Oh, what's happening? Family verb is obtained, role exact error. Oh, the JSON schema says that something is wrong. So in the format, we cannot use file. Of course, I have to return something different because file is not yet implemented. Okay, let's see if now something is still wrong. Logger. Check all route errors. Errors in route map. The error dxf file not found is not included in the list of managed errors. So as you can see, the system itself checks everything every time it runs. So I have to disable this error management because this error is not yet defined. So restart everything again. Okay, now it's working again. I can refresh, and now my routes are working. So the thing that I was saying before is that now there's no control about this. So there's no test defined, but there's the possibility to run tests. So here, if we would take a look to other defined families, you can see there is an index, and I can load tests. No, here test is not defined. There's another problem. I have disabled the tests. So as you can see here, tests are not even loaded. I have disabled the automatic loading of the tests. So I can see only the parameters and the defined errors of this route. But the tests are no longer loaded. So I can show you how it could work, but I can run the tests from this web interface. So I can define a bunch of tests. As you can see here is plentiful tests all over. So I can see maybe help. I can see those routes. So the help index, the tests. So I can see the help index as one test defined. This route has one test, and the test is no error. It has to work because you can't. In this route, you don't have any parameter. It must work because everything should work. You have to return only an HTML page. But we can see that I may call something, another route, where there is a parameter, and this can fail. So if I call a parameter that is not defined here, so I call a family that is not existing, it should return a message, family not found. This is the test. A failing test should return HTML page with managed error, and the error is family read not found. No, it's not working, but it's not a problem. I've disabled it. So let's see what this DXF server-side rendering test, how this works. So I have defined a series of tests for all the functions that I have created. I have taken inspiration from a library that I found on NPM, and this library was made by an awesome guy that I have saved somewhere. So DXF classes, I can see Angular dimension. I haven't saved the reference somewhere. No problem. Here you can see which are the objects that we can create in our DXF drawing. Lines, linear dimensions, line types, points, polylines, text, etc. And so I have created some tests for this. So here are the tests. I define a mini test for everything. So if I want to add a layer, I create a drawing and I create one layer. I set the active layer into the current drawing and draw a line to test. I want to see what happens here, so I want to see layers test. Layers test. This is the first test. And so here I'm trying to download the file, the XF, with the result of the test. Of course, here I cannot auto-test. I should write a test for a test. It's a bit... The only thing I think I can do is to check by myself manually if the test is correct. So here I was expected to create two layers, additional layers, 1 and 2, one green and one red. Let's see if it's okay. Green and one red. One is continuous, one is dotted 5. I think that this will be failing miserably because I have disabled somewhere this automatic creation, and so I have to draw 2 lines parallel. Let's see if it is correct. It's true, one line is here and the second is here, but it is not dotted. It's not dotted 5 because I have disabled the automatic creation of the default line types and default line types for here it is disabled. So here I can create various types of predefined line styles. So dashed, dot, and dash dot. Okay, let's save, Ctrl Shift S. Starting scripts. So it's rebuilding. It's long. Once it was really faster than this. 17 seconds is very long. Now it will restart the node monitor. Okay. So if we redo the test, now it will download another file, and now it should work. There will be 2 lines, one dotted and one continuous. So the test is working. You can check everything else. So arcs. Here the test should draw a bunch of random arcs, and these are the random arcs, about 2000 arcs. Okay, it's working. It's fast. I can see that it is fast. How can I see how much it is fast? Because there is a logger that performs logging everywhere. So I can go here to the log browser. The logs are listed in descent order. So the first one is the youngest, the most recent. So you can see is the recent one. Here, this log file is created whenever the server restarts. So whenever the node monitor is restarting, the log file is created. And here I can see which are the events. So I can see that the server was started and created. This is a bug, because if I can go here, I can see which is the story, the whole story of the startup of the server. I can see here that the total time is 191 milliseconds, and the most of the time is taken here from the building of the JSON schemas. So 85 milliseconds are gone for building the 6 schemas. You can see these schemas are the most important ones, so everything should run through these schemas, through this validation. And there is a lot of time that is taken from loading the schema files, 59 schema files, a lot of schemas, and the schemas are loaded but are not compiled. So I load 59 schemas, but I compile only 6. All the other schemas are compiled when they are requested, upon request. And I wait here for 44 milliseconds creating the Wisdom logger. Yeah, Wisdom logger takes a lot of time. All the other stuff loading the routes and so on. It's quite fast. So I can go back. This is the request that I'm performing here to the log system. So the last request that I've made, so to check the request one, it's here. See? And the DXF, as you can see, takes about 700 or 800 milliseconds. But this is absolutely unoptimized. So now, at the moment, when I ask to the server to get a single file, so and I go here and first, when I call this page, all the tests are built. So I can go here and see that all the tests are built in 600 milliseconds. All the tests. But also if I ask for a single file, all the tests are rebuilt and only one file is downloaded. So I can go here and if I refresh, I will see that it takes about 600 milliseconds. It's not optimized at all. So I should go here, and when I ask for this file, I should rebuild only this file. Or instead, I should download only the file. So when I call this page, I should build all the tests. And when I ask for this file, instead of rebuilding everything, I should only download the file. Or if I want to change something and want to reload the DXF files, I should click run again or refresh. Now it's not optimized, but my purpose was to make it working. So let's see what happens in the polylines test. I'm creating some short path polylines from 2 points to 20 points, if I remember correctly, everything random. And also the polylines are working. So I'm a bit tired. As you can see, the DXF are working. Here there should be a cookie set up, but in the DXF routes this cookie is not set up yet. But if I run the SVG tests, I go to primitives and I want to see one polygon. This is an SVG file created on the fly with the SSR rendering, server-side rendering. So I have some examples that you can use to mimic a CAD using SVG. So I have angular linear dimensions. These are not working. I don't know why. Let's see here. It's missing some cookie. Vertical. Oh yes, angular linear dimensions are broken, but vertical linear dimensions are working. So I can create dimensions here. There's a bug here that I've changed the positioning of the text. I've made some changes, so here the default text now is very small and the positioning of the text is a little bit misplaced. So you can see here that the text is not centered inside the dimension between the arrows. It's something that I have to fix. But the most important thing that these are all tests that are static or pre-made. So here I'm working upon different patterns, filling patterns. So there's slightly different versions of filling patterns. So if I zoom in, I can see that this pattern is this kind. But if I check for another pattern, you can see here that the pattern is completely different. This is a test. Now it are not even correctly sorted. This menu is not sorted in the correct way. There's a bug here. But the most important thing that is that behind all of these predefined tests, I can do another kind of test that is completely different and quite more powerful. That is the instructions test. Because you can create your own SVG file through JSON instructions. So I can, as you can see here, implementing this set of instructions, you can generate your drawing here. So as you can see here, the first instruction is to set the name to this SVG, general setup with title. After that, we can set a view box. So I have created this view box. This is the canvas, this is the viewport. As you can see, we have 5,000, so minus 500 to 450, 4,500. Like I said, the background, you draw the background, yes, the field color is this orange, border width, 20 pixels, border color is red. Now I can set the axis, and all these axes, so I draw the ticks distance, ticks width, big ticks every 5, big tick size, and so on. And so I draw name. This is the another instruction, ID x0, y 4000, general setup with title name. Now everything is disabled, but you can run this test making an Ajax call, an Ajax call. So if I change this content, I can rerun the test and obtain a different image here. The idea here is to create tests and to save those tests. So in the future here, next to run test, there will be another button, save tests. So that's all for today. This is another tool that I'm going to implement, is the possibility to create HTML on the fly using JSON. This allows you to create a CMS system. This CMS can be consumed by a web application like an Angular application, or using this system. So as you can see here, the HTML rendering system allows you to create automatically HTML from JSON. Here the CSS is not working. Here is not working too. And here you can create components. really. You can create real components. So instead of having this image here, so in the CMS test, I have simple image. So this is the JSON that generates the HTML. So I have a tag, image, a content, attributes, and media source. But I can create another kind of image component. I can create image lazy. An image lazy component can add a little bit of JavaScript that allows you to load the image lazily. And here the image tag allows you to create an array of images. So image tag allows you to create a series of images. You can use the attributes here. You can create links, and so it creates a series of images. You have to pass only the links. So instead of creating all the HTML that is required to all this HTML is created from here, is created by these instructions. This is the base for creating a CMS system, a content management system. So here I can create tags for whatever I want, and I can create specialized versions of my HTML builders, or I can use an Angular application that has its own components that can render those tags. So I can create components to render content dynamically. So content management system. And so on. Next, after images is tables. I can create tables. I can create forms completely automatically. Now this is not working, not yet supported. This is selection. Here I'm using the components of the Materialize framework. This is a slightly more complex example. It is an entire page where the numeration of the titles is automatic. So as you can see here, this is tag anchor content title 1. This creates automatically when you set anchor. It has to create an anchor, and so it creates automatically the correct numeration of the paragraph or the title. This is another example that field set not yet supported, and so on. These are portion of the wizard system. As you can see here, those wrong button. Previous one. This is like this navigation bar is another component, is another HTML portion, is a specialized version of a navigation that allows to navigate between a series of pages, or like in this system, it will be a wizard navigator. So let's imagine that this could be a wizard that has a series of steps. So there are managed content displayed here, so questions or lists or images or multiple choices or whatever. And so you will have buttons to navigate through these pages of the wizard, like forms, like test exams or whatever. And so the choices will drive you through a path. The wizard contains a tree of the choices. So the purpose of the wizard system is to create a tree of choices, and every choice must fulfill previous choices. So everything here has to be consistent. The very challenging object is that all of this should be completed automated. I think I would like to avoid almost completely to perform or to add additional custom functionality through code. I would like to have a system where every choice is predefined in a meta language. So every choice should be described as a JSON object, like perform validation on the entire form. If the form is correct, there will be one or more fields that will determine which path you will start into the tree. And these kind of choices must be very simple. So if there will be if value is this, go there. If value is a switcher, very simple switcher. And the validation should be performed on 2 or maybe 3 maximum fields. If you perform the choice upon more than 2 or 3 fields, the amount of choices should literally grow exponentially. So you have to split the steps. You can't perform too much choices over a single step. It's too difficult. You can see you can have multiple fields, but you have to validate the fields. So if the form is valid, okay, go further. And if the form is valid and one of those fields contains a certain value, go here or go there. But the choice must be simple. Instead, it is not. Is no more a wizard if you have to perform too much choices on every step. Well, this is almost everything I wanted to show to you in this first video. There are a lot of other things that I would like to do, and all of other things. As you can see here now, the cookie is working. So it is not open the Era accordion, but it is already open the apps accordion because it has intercepted the cookie, as I can see here in the log, where I can see that the home page every time is called when the logger and the new request is intercepted by the server. I can see here the headers, and the cookie is this. So this is the cookie. Okay. I can do a lot of things, but the real purpose here is to arrive and put all of this stuff together, adding also 3D. This is a 3D visualization created on the fly using three.js. So this model, this 3D model, is generated on the fly. This is very basic. This is very pre-alpha. Is a mock, a semi-mock. It has some functionality, but not that much. Only shows that things works, but the real stuff will happen here in the BOM examples. Now it is even not working no more because every route here is broken. I have to rewrite all the routes because the path here is broken. But all this stuff will be collected down here in the BOME build of material examples, where I will perform custom bill of materials explosion, where we'll have multi-level bill of material parameterized explosion. So every row of the bill of materials will be dynamic and will be able to change that based upon the parameters that will be passed to the bill of material explosion, so-called. And this is very ambitious, and with this will be the final objective that I want to reach. I will put all of this stuff together and will be able to arrive here, and there will be routes where you will define your bill of materials, and you will be able to insert rules to perform explosions. But the stuff here is not to create a system that is completely automatic. I want to write code to perform a bill of materials explosion. I want to write actual code. I want to put the code inside Node. This will allow extreme flexibility, very fast execution, and a lot of power. Really a lot of power. You can do whatever you want. You will be able to create CMS if you want. You will be able to create dynamic pages to show results. You will be able to create SVG drawings, DXF drawings, 3D drawings, and more. You will be able to create numeric controls instructions. You will be able to create instructions for inserting data into Transact SQL databases, whatever. To perform database updates, writing SQL statements, whatever you want. So this is all for now, and thank you for watching, and goodbye.